You are on mute.
Okay. All right. Uh, excellent. All right. Now people can hear me, right? Yeah, because I was sitting there talking for all that time and I didn't realize people couldn't hear me. Okay. So again, just to repeat what I was saying, the purpose of this particular workshop is so that you understand how to write a statement of facts for the purposes of assisting someone with their writ of habeas corpus in most cases, or maybe it's their bond hearing or whatever have you. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is just review what we did last week in terms of writing the statement of facts and how to edit it and just the style that we use. And I'm teaching you from the standpoint of anyone who comes into our firm as a law clerk, as an intern, as a new lawyer, is going to how to learn how to write, is going to learn how to do it this particular way. There's a million different ways to do it, so don't take this as, this is the way all law firms or all lawyers write. No, it's not. Right. It's very specific to our firm. We do a large volume of cases every year. We do a large volume of depositions, just lots of litigation, and we're really like a small firm, to be honest. But we do crank this stuff out. So again, I'm teaching you how we do it, but this, while it is not the only way to do it, this will, at least for the layperson, for the community activist, and for sort of the person that's trying to help somebody in an emergency, this will get you where you need to be. And like 10% of the way, 10%, 80% of the way there. So whenever you get ready to write a legal document, you, the very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to write the statement of facts, right? And the statement of facts is designed in a legal way to be used throughout the entire legal process, right? And when I say the entire legal process, the initial kind of investigatory documentation that you fill out, then when you write a lawsuit, then when you write your discovery documents, your pretrial documents, and even your trial documents, and even if you do an appeal. When I get a new case and we say, okay, we're going to take it, the first thing that I have the team is do the research, do an intake, get as much information as they can, which these days you can do very easily via the internet, and I'm going to show you that. And then they start off with the statement of facts. That is the fundamental way that you should approach every case. And the lawyers that are coming and working with me on the ICE cases, that is the fundamental way that you approach the case. Okay. So is the statement of facts. So let me just kind of show the slideshow to sort of exemplify what we're talking about here. So, you know what? And then let me find you guys. I have to share my screen. Okay, I'm doing this backwards. All right, so here we go. First of all, I just want to get confirmation that everybody can see the slideshow. Can you see the slideshow? Actually, hold on. I didn't see. Did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay. Jane. Okay, thanks, Jane. All right. So you can see it. All right. So again, and then also once I kind of review how we do it, then I'm going to show you how to do it using, one of the AI tools, primarily just Gemini, pretty much. But and again, and let me just say this with when you're using AI, for anything, you should disclose to people that you're using it. That's number one. Number two, we have a disclosure in our contract saying, hey, we are going to use AI, and so on and so forth. And we've taken every measure that we can to make sure that things are confidential and that it doesn't get disseminated. Not that anything's foolproof. Now they make lawyers get insurance for using technology, period. But that's what we say. So, and again, I'll teach you some of the concepts for when you use AI to do your work. Here's the things that you want to consider, right? You talk about your role, and this just gets it clear in the person's mind in terms of what they're going to do. the objective, the description, examples, and the style. All right. When you create so basically when you get ready to use like one of the concepts in Google, for instance, like we're going to do today, you want to, these are the things that you want to have in mind. So let me just stop for a second and just make sure. I'm going to send some samples so we can all work through this together. Just a moment. Uh, I have to get everyone's email though. That's the problem. I have the email set ready to go, but then, Katie, what's your email? Or if you want to actually, you know what, you can just email me if you don't want to put it out on the chat or something like that. Sorry about that. I need one from Robert.
I put it in the, yeah. Put it in the chat. James, you're on mute again.
Okay. Did you guys hear what I said? So anyone that wants me to email some of these samples so we can all work through them together, please post your email in the chat if you haven't already. Okay. So just a moment. I got a couple more emails that I have to post in the chat. Yeah. I got you, Robert. It's fine. Good to see you after, 30 years, however long it's been. It's Robert Saxton for the folks from Southwest. I just bought his book off of Amazon. I plan to start reading it when I take my flight tomorrow. Uh,
Hi, guys.
there you go. Okay. There's Robert. I'm looking forward to reading that book. Of course, Robert, I'm going to have notes. I'm joking, man. Come on, man.
I need notes. I need notes.
Sorry about this, folks. I just want to make sure that everyone is included here. And let's do this. I'm gonna send it. I just so we can move on. The last email that I got was Peterson, or no, Suzanne Pruitt. So if anybody comes late, if when we're on a group email, if you could just forward it to them. If somebody says, "Hey, I didn't get that. I didn't get that email." So what I just sent was the editing checklist. And for you guys that are writers, like like Robert, if you're making a living writing, just you got to remember with law stuff, it's very formulaic, and I would say that. And in fact, I'll tell you guys a story. When I first started law school, I I'd spent most of my 20s doing freelance writing, and some of my claims to fame, I would say if I had a claim to fame, I had like a zine that I used to put out, like a magazine. Minnesota back in the day was big into weeklies and things like that. And so I did one of those. And I also just wrote for, magazines like Spin magazine used to be a big one back in the day. Uh, and so when I got to law school, I was like, oh yeah, I know how to write, easy enough. But no, when you go to law school, they take the flair out of you. And I actually had trouble with that. Just I had a lot of trouble with that, like, you know, coming from being a writer, like a creative writer. Like I actually went, master's degree, everything for it. But going from there to learning how to write as a lawyer, where they basically numb all the creative instincts, and then you know, I guess to make you write that way. And so anyway, that's my story. All right. So let's talk about just statements of fact in general. Like let's review what we were talking about last week. And and again, this is just it's a guideline for the folks that are interns, law clerks, and working with the firm. This is how you do it. This is how you got to do it. All right. But if you're if that's not the case, a little different. All right. So here's an example. If you look at the top, and again, they're sort of similar to some cases that we've had that have been closed, but for the most part, you can they're these are these are cases that have already gone through the system, and I changed the names. But if you look at the first one, it's always like a three-paragraph format, right? And the first one is like your lead. If you know anything about journalism, which some of you do, your lead, right? Your opening statement that you put when you write your news story, and you're basically just trying to get the date, time, location, and then just a quick summary of what happened at the end. Then you get the second paragraph, which is your sort of action paragraph. That's where you're gonna highlight the three or four critical things that happen in this particular incident, right? And then the last paragraph is you're telling what the result is, all right? So for the law students, what you're going to recognize is, and the legal folks, the first paragraph is everything that can be judicially noticed, meaning you can resort to almanacs or information sources that you rely on to find out if the address was indeed here, right? Or you can, the date, time, location. Also, from taking the bar or studying for the bar at LSAT that time of day and night is very important, especially like in a car accident, right? There's a big difference between, you know, uh, 1 o'clock p.m. and 1 o'clock a.m. And even more so, on the test questions where, the driver's driving at, at 7 o'clock a.m. or 7 o'clock, and they don't specify a.m. or p.m. But 7 o'clock a.m. in Minnesota in November is like driving at night, whereas 7 o'clock p.m. Even in Minnesota in the winter is definitely driving at night. But and it changes daylight savings times, that whole thing. So again, this first paragraph is what prevents you from, sets it up so you don't get objections. All right. But for the lay person, you just want to get all this critical information. The second paragraph is again the critical thing. So when you talk to somebody, they're going to try to give you every single friggin' detail. But what you want to do is you want to highlight. You're just trying to highlight, and that's it. Okay. And you'd highlight. I always say the rule of thumb is highlight the three most important things in the incident. And for the ICE cases, it's always going to be the same, right? ICE approached whoever it was, they detained him, and they probably did it in a rough way. If they hit him or kicked him or something like that, you put that in there. If they said something, law enforcement's they're getting smarter these days, and they're not saying things they used to be. They might say a couple things that would further exacerbate the situation, and then whatever other detail that's in the second paragraph. Um, and then in the final paragraph, you are telling what the result is, like basically what the injury is. Okay, so for the writers, this is action, right? For like a Robert, you understand when you're writing action, you want to write in the active voice, and it's punches, right? And me, Robert, Katie, I think we had a great education, great elementary school teacher, Mr. Grimmer, and the others, and great Miss Westby. You remember that you want to, active voice, subject, verb. It's got to be past tense, and you want to basically use shorter sentence structures. All right. For the lawyers, what you're trying to do is you're trying to prevent objections to compound, objection vague, ambiguous, because when you start having a lot of commas, you get, you get a lot of objections. So right here, we do have a subordinate clause, right, that you guys remember from high school, except it's to set up the fact that, we have basically a short sentence afterwards. right? But generally, we want the projectile struck her in the face, right? This is compound, objection compound, right? Where we have a compound sentence. However, we're just trying to say it struck her in two areas. However, some people might string two sentences together, all right? So just some things to watch. And if you look at some of these other statement of facts, same kind of thing. And what I did was I put some mistakes in here that I want to show you with the editing checklist. So again, we got, probably a more straightforward statement of facts. We got the lead, we have the middle paragraph, and then we have as a result. All right. Then finally on the last one, we have again short statement of facts, the lead, we have the action paragraph, and then we have the result. And again, the result, you need the result for the attorneys. You got to show what the damages are. And then for you guys that are helping out with like, the lawsuits or the people that are in detention, the result is what you tell the court so that you can get your person, out of detention, so on and so forth. All right. So let's use first of all, so you can see this note real quick. If you can look at the editing checklist, can someone confirm that you guys can see the editing checklist? Okay, great. All right. So again, not for, the writers and the people who are teaching English, but, more for the lawyer side of our brain. We want to make sure that, again, we have judicially noticed facts, like facts that can't be disputed. Stylistically, we don't want to be repetitive because we don't want to create ambiguous, constructions like things like that. You don't want to repeat certain verb sequences. Again, you're trying to prevent ambiguity. Too many commas. Like I just said, I hear, Miss Westby, Miss Sexton, active voice, right? Delete all passive voice constructions. If you're in the Bay Area, on the street, what he had said was, don't do that. We don't, we don't want to talk. We don't want to write like we talk, right? We want it to be straightforward, subject, verb, past tense. Dates. It's incorrect to do 5 p.m. You want to actually list it out, capitalize the P and the M with a period. All right. Incorrect. You don't want to do the date like this. You want to spell it out February. You want to spell out February here, 20th and 2019. Numbers, anything under 10, you write it out. Okay. Brooke, you probably remember that. I also, I think, and this is just something from practicing, from years of practice, like you don't want to, you definitely, you don't want to end sentences with a preposition because I notice that there's a lot of objections on that. So just start it with the prepositional phrase on October 5th, 2012, whatever, I drank 5 beers. That is definitely true. Okay. I don't even know what happened on October 5th, but I can tell you that if it was in 2012, I probably did drink 5 beers. Okay. So you guys get the editing checklist. So let's use the editing checklist with one of our statements of facts. Okay. So if you look at the top here, we're gonna do this statement of facts right here. So I'm gonna post the editing checklist at the top. And then we're just gonna go through it one by one. First of all, 3-paragraph format. Do we have that here in this one right here? Looks like 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so the next thing, let's talk about like how we're using nouns. And again, we're gonna use my dad's name, and we're gonna interchange his he, his, that type of thing. Okay, so if we start off and we look at this, and where's the first place where we use the subject's name, and it was Marcus Roy, right? And so we know his full name is Marcus Roy. We say there, and this again is our one sentence summary. Next thing is on April 20th, 2024, we'll say that deputies, we don't have to come, arrived at at an apartment. We should probably say V apartment complex. Um, uh, to contact Mr. Roy about a disturbance, or we can say investigate. But the point is, we have Mr. Roy, and there's probably a way that we can make this construction like a little bit easier. But you know, we can live with this for now. All right. So we have deputies here, and then we go into we use law enforcement officers. We could just say officers or deputies, or we can say sheriff's deputies. But here we'll say law enforcement and drive home the point. Approach Roy. So we never want to just say, we never want to use somebody's first name in legal writing. We can just say Roy. All right. So his name is, let's just check real quick. His name is Marcus Roy, and so we use his last name, Roy. Okay. The officers demanded that we don't want to repeat. That's what we have here is we're repeating his name. So we can just say him simply. All right. And then we go back to Roy, you know, really, or we can say Mr. Roy. Initially question the reason for being detained. And then, you know, we say that the body camera footage shows that he, and the reason why we say Roy here, because, you know, we don't want to create any ambiguity. But Roy took a step forward in a lunge position. So implying that he was falling, right? A deputy fired 2 times, and we'll come back to that as he lowered his left knee to the ground. And we probably want to say, we can probably do something like, oops, let me move that up here as Mr. Roy lowered himself to his front knee. All right. Both shot hit center mass. I didn't say Roy, but I think this is fine. I'll defer to the writers or anybody that was in Westby's class. This incident involves, all right, so here the person is saying, hey, I'm just going to make sure that we put it out there right in a way that we believe that these are the legal theories. We don't always have to do that, and I wouldn't always advise that, but sometimes that might be necessary if we have a serious injury. Like, for instance, we're talking about somebody that was injured in one of the facilities, okay? As a result, I'm going to use his full name here, right? So we're going to say Marcus Roy passed away. Roy is survived by a wife and 1 minor child. The family suffered, all right? I'll take out family. Continues to endure severe anxiety and sleep disturbances, all right? So that's our first edit, and what we were looking for is just repetitive nouns, all right? And kind of verbs, you know, same sentence. We'll go back through it again. Now we're going to talk about too many commas, active voice construction, date, time, all right? And we'll kind of look for that, all right? So we go through it methodically, all right? So again, we got the 1:19 p.m. You know, I don't know that we necessarily, right? Robert, Katie, you guys can remind me if we need to do that. Speak up if you want to say anything. Location was 2800 76th Street, Chino, California. And then what I want to make the point about here is when I first brought this up, they didn't have the zip code, but you want to put the zip code, Google the address and find the zip code. You want to have the zip code because again, it makes you make sure that it's a undisputed fact. And then we got San Bernardino County. Okay. Moving on to the next paragraph. So this is fine. We can live with this. And again, we'll edit it. And really, we want to say, I would like every sentence to start like this. The incident all right. Do something like that. And then the approximate time. And we don't want to say the approximate time. And this is the only time where we use an approximate. It's important when you're writing these that you get the time notation right, because that's going to be, one of the things that you use to sort of locate the person or find out, where they went or who it was. I mean, there could be multiple people with the same last name that were detained at that point. All right. And again, the location, get that zip code if you can find it. Okay. Um, then we get into the second sentence. Deputies arrived at the apartment complex. All right. I'd probably shorten this and say, a something like that, okay? Just and I'm trying to shorten the sentences here, right? Um, the approach, I'll say deputies made contact with Roy near the front of the complex, right? And again, key fact because we want to make sure that when we do a diagram and we're on the deposition or whatever it is, we want to be able to describe the positioning of when, we slow this down to this very second when this particular incident happened, and we want to know the positioning, like where they were. In fact, it'd be better if we said something near the front of the north side. All right. If we knew that information, okay. And then the officers demanded that Roy, so we use Roy, so we'll say that he, and to avoid, any, we'll say Mr. Roy places his hands on his head. We'll just say this. And get down on his knees. And we're using a compound sentence here, but we're we're making the point here, and I think this is clear enough that we don't get any objections for the lawyers. All right. Instead of using Roy again, we'll say, or Mr. Roy. Roy initially questioned the reason for being detained, as somebody would, right? This is key because our detainees are always going to say, "Hey, why are you detaining me? Hey, I'm a citizen. Like I'm in the process of getting my paperwork. Whatever it is." And that's important. In fact, if you have a quote, you would say something like, Roy stated, loudly, right? And then get into the quote, so on and so forth, right? Oops, I spelled quote wrong, but you guys get the point. So even better if you can get a quote out of it. But we'll just say Roy initially questioned the reason for being detained. And then we'll say, body camera footage shows that Roy took a step forward in a lunge position. That's important. That was important in this case, right? Initially, I thought it was a bad case. Just so you guys know, again, the names, dates, everything's changed, but I thought it was a bad case at first. And this was like 20, I don't know, this was like 20, I want to say 2011. And I was thinking, oh man, I don't know. But this became a key fact that we were able to argue that like the lunge position, it just meant like he was trying to get down on one knee, because the cops were saying, well, he took a step forward. Well, no, he was trying to get down on one knee and comply with your commands. All right. So that particular fact is key. Be the same thing for our detainees, like facts like that will definitely indicate to the judge, like, hey, when they're taken into custody, they did comply, whatever it is. All right. A deputy fired 2 times, right? Again, numbers, under 10, we can actually, instead of saying 2 times, twice, as Mr. Roy lowered himself to his front knee, right? And while this is, we're talking about a subordinate clause here, so on and so forth. I mean, we could probably, tighten that up. We could say deputy fired twice at Mr. Roy. We could just say at Mr. Roy's. And we could just leave it like that because I think we said something about center mass here. So we can shorten that up. We don't know which deputy it is, and so probably for the lawyers, say something like that if we think we're going to need to add like a lot of different officers. But right now we just got one. So deputy fired. And again, for the DOEs is a construction. I mean, specific to California. I think you could use it for Minnesota when you don't know who is present, and so you name DOEs and then you substitute the DOEs as you find out. We're going to be doing a lot of that with the ICE folks because they're hiding their faces, and that was very specific because I'm sure that when they decided this, when they all sat in the room with Trump, they're like, okay, we're going to be sued a lot, and probably a lot of people are going to get hurt. So one thing that we're going to make happen, we know that in Bivens lawsuits, you have to know the names, right? And so they're not going to know the names. So because we're going to cover our faces, right? Completely sinister shit. And don't get me started, all right? Luckily, there's been a lot of talk in both the House and the Senate about changing the process of filing a Bivens claim lawsuit. And it's like just talking about it is going to make me fucking cry, but okay. Anyway, all right. So a deputy shot twice at Mr. Roy's center mass and would take out the part about lowering himself to his front knee. All right. And then again, we named, the potential state and local, state law claims. I guess, so that's that. Let's see. So we took out as many commas as possible. I think that we went for the passive voice. I know we changed some numbers, and I know we didn't end anything with the prepositional phrase. Then as a result, Marcus Roy passed away. All right. We could say he has survived, but whatever, judgment call. Roy survived but we do have a number here, so we want to say and by his wife and one minor child, right? When we have minors in our, we would say the names, but you never say the names, you just do initials. So if his name, whatever the initial was, minor child JC, James Cook, right? All right, but we don't have a minor child name, and we're not going to do that. We could just say one minor child. All right, family suffered total loss of financial support. They continue to endure severe anxiety and sleep disturbances. And really, what we're saying here is emotional distress. So. Just to make it a little bit shorter, right? All right, so that's just a sample of editing, one of these with a statement of facts. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my example, and we'll get to example. So I got example 4, and I'll say example 5, and this is in my gem. Okay. So I wanted to make sure I did that. So real quick, I'm going to stop sharing this, or no. Yeah, I'll stop sharing. Any questions so far? Any? So that's just editing a statement of facts, and you have the checklist, okay? So, and you want to know how to do this manually before you start using AI. Go ahead, Catherine.
Just kind of thinking through some things as you were editing it. And like, for example, the last one, you changed it from sleep disturbances and et cetera to emotional distress. emotional distress is clearly more vague than sleep disturbances, right? And when do you, I mean, I'm sure that's there, that's where the small place where art comes into it. But when do you just, how do you make this distinctions between being specific and brief and being vague?
That's a great question. That actually that's good, and I'm actually glad you brought that up. All right. So, it's a judgment call, right? What I'm thinking and what I automatically go to is we plead emotional distress a lot, and you hear it on TV and in the movies and everything. But in real life, emotional distress, uh, if you're going to prove it in a lawsuit, it requires experts, right? You have to get expert opinion, and you have to hire an expert. So you hire psychologists, and you actually have to hire two, and then they have to meet with the psychologist, and then they have to do a full evaluation, and then uh, and that type of thing. So and each, you probably pay about 20 grand for each psychologist. And I'm telling you all this to say that we plead it, our office, we tend to plead it sort of vaguely in this case because it's not going to be the emphasis of the lawsuit, right? Everybody comes and say, I was traumatized, I experienced emotional distress, that type of thing. And then we're like, hey, wait, slow down. Like that's going to be the main thing in the lawsuit. And some people just come and, like, I was pulled over, I got emotional distress. Well, emotional distress is not something that you can hang the whole lawsuit on. So in this case, it's art and practice. However, I would say in our cases, when we're talking about detainees and immigrants who've been detained, if you can be specific and say, like anxiety, sleep disturbances, like I don't know, afraid to go outside, like you can be very specific, then I think that that's the way to go. All right. But again, that's my instinct in terms of when I'm thinking of just the overall police case, because I know that I'm gonna have to prove all that stuff. Uh, if I say that, like I'm gonna have to prove it with medical records and expert records. However, I think that as you guys do that, I think you make the judgment call. Like, am I going to just say severe distress because maybe they weren't clear about it, or am I going to like list out every single thing that they're experiencing? Does that help, Catherine?
Yes, it does. I guess I have another question. I'm sorry, I'm like the question person. I apologize. Tell me to shut up if I'm getting out of line. Um, but in the case of immigrant detention, one of the things that they're just I mean, you can list the specific things. They were detained for 2.5 weeks and were separated from their children. The family incurred childcare expenses, something along those lines, right? Or expenses related to the detainment. Um, but I'm trying to get where my can you say things like they suffered a violation of their constitutional rights?
Okay, so again,
Because
if you
if
look,
indeed,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
no, let me jump in. Okay, so first of all, your first question is all the stuff that you just talked about in terms of like what they suffered. That's your last paragraph. Okay.
Yep, I
So
know
that
that.
that's why I have that set up so you can list all that stuff. And again, it's
Yep.
a judgment call, right? I'm thinking
Hmm.
like the police case and you're thinking the detention case. List it all here in this last sentence. Second thing is,
Yep.
like you said, when we're talking about the potential causes of action, like the legal theories, that's here at the end of the second
Okay.
paragraph. Yeah. However, for the layperson, I would be careful in doing that, right? Because you don't and you don't want to use AI to come up with your legal arguments because a lot of times it's wrong or it lists stuff and unless you know how to really research that, but if somebody tells you and trust lawyers, okay, lawyers who know, they'll tell you like these are the violations or this is the way that they're violated. You can say yeah vaguely like their constitutional rights were violated, but the statement of facts kind of does that for you. That's why we design it like this. I hope that helps. Okay. Okay. And Catherine, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. You sure you don't got any more questions, though? I want to make sure.
Yes, could send me to law school, please. I mean, seriously, there's so many, but I'll keep going.
I have a question,
Yeah,
Jim.
go ahead, Katie.
In that last paragraph, can you list like afraid to go to work, afraid to go out
Yes.
and get groceries, afraid to, because then that's loss of income. If you can't go to work because you're afraid you're going to get pulled over, I mean, there's tons of that's happening. So,
I think you
or
guys
that
should say
has
all of
happened.
that.
Okay.
Say all of it.
All right.
Yes. Yes, Katie, for sure. And Katie, another person that I grew up with, we've been in school together since elementary school. The Mr. Grimmer, who had probably an effect on all of us. Great teacher. Talk about a great teacher. But I always harken back to those guys, and then all the rest of the Southwest folks, Miss Westby. All right, but yes, please, you list that out here. But again, short sentence constructions, okay, or as short as possible and make it specific as possible. So, Catherine and Katie, does that help at least in terms of those questions?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's talk about AI, okay? Let's go back to talk. So now I've showed you how to do it manually, and it takes practice. And and since Robert has been writing a book, like Robert, anything you got to offer, like I mean, in terms of you know, you got anything there, or you got anything for me, or
One of the first things I noticed, I had a question with the active passive voice. So when most of us writing, Miss B would get text and avoiding stuff. Looked at a sentences of passive.
I think you're breaking up, Robert. Can you guys hear Robert? No, he's breaking up.
He's breaking up as he's talking.
It's weird. Or two.
Maybe you can post it to the. It's probably your connection. No?
Stand by.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, Robert's he put us in. Are you putting us on hold for a second, Robert? Okay.
Main question was active versus passive.
Okay. Yeah, active versus passive is just if I go back, and that's important, you guys. And what I mean by that is you don't want to say was going, had been doing. You want to pick a tense, probably past tense, and stick with it as much as possible. Except, in the first sentence we were saying was, I mean, it's just necessary. The location was, right? But I'm just saying, like, try not to use, like, try to use instead of was the helping verb, or or progressive, past progressive. You say the deputies arrived, not were arriving here, or the deputies responded, not were responding, right? Because a lot of people would write were responding. Does that help, Robert? Is that what you mean? Okay. Yeah, a deputy fired. Like I think it's just better action, you know. Yeah. So, but you can't always. But just remember, I think the thing is just remember you pick a tense in this paragraph and you stick with that tense, and your tense should definitely all generally you want it to be past tense. So, okay. And that'll have the biggest punch. You got to remember that most of the people that are looking at this in the judges' chambers, they're clerks and people that are reviewing these, and you want to grab them and say, yeah, you know what, the way that this is written is like making this stand out. Go ahead, Catherine.
One other question came up to mind. Since we not only don't know the names and badge numbers, et cetera, of the people who are engaging in actions against detained people, I'm wondering what is the placeholder? We don't know if they're deputies. We don't know if they're ICE agents. In some cases, we don't even know if they're actually employees of the federal government.
Yeah, law.
I mean,
I know. Yeah, law
what
enforcement.
is there a standard how we designate them?
You just say law enforcement. Assume that it's a law enforcement officer. Yeah, you're right that we may not know, but
Yeah.
I mean, err on the side of caution and say law enforcement agent or law enforcement officer, and then it can be changed as we go along. Does that make sense? Okay, I
Mm.
can't. Oh, hold on. I don't. Does that make sense, Catherine? Okay. All right. Here we
By the
go.
way, if you can hear me
Go ahead,
now,
Robert.
yeah, I found my doppelganger and killed him here. So that was the issue.
Okay. All right. So let's
Um,
get into AI. Or were you going to ask a question, Robert? Go ahead.
no, only wanted to point out the active and passive and shortening of sentences. I wasn't clear. I thought you were looking for active voice. So that's regular narrative writing, as you know, short sentences, active.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, we can get into the techniques, but the point for, like Robert, he's not going to have writer's block or, once I give him the the structure, probably going to be able to fly through this quickly. But this is also for the folks like lay people who are just like, what the hell do I write? So start here and then work your way out. And as the lawyers and the law students edit, we'll get there. We'll get you to what you need to have. Okay. So let me so again, so basically we're gonna talk about prompt engineering for AI, right? And this is where we get into using AI so we can crank out a lot of these all at one time. But first you got to set up your prompt. All right. And the if you were to look at any YouTube video, like the acronym everybody uses is ROADS, right? So when you do a prompt, you define your role, you state what the objective is, you give kind of a description of what you're trying to do, examples, and then you always want to do some type of style, all right? So let's do this. If you can, one every or real quick, just I brought this slide in just because it kind of, in terms of for the attorneys and law students, like this is where we're going. Like this is the future of our industry. Everybody's like I always say, everyone says there'll be two types of law firms in 2028. There'll be the law firms that harness AI, and then the ones that don't exist anymore, right? Um, AI is integrated into everything now. If you use, for instance, my case or any of the big legal uh, tools, whatever's out there. Like I was using my case for a while. Like people are using Clio. You know, it's all AI now. Now if you got an ECF account, there's AI for like searches and all that kind of stuff. So it's there whether you like it or not. So yeah, just got to learn how to use it. And this is, you do your input, you use the tool to do some processing like you would use Microsoft Word or something like that, and then you got the outcome. And again, there's a push and pull between sort of the older generation of lawyers, and I guess that would include me, like Gen X. Well, not really. I'm kind of on the cusp, but generally, there's people that are still using typewriters in some firms, right? Uh, and did not like it when people started using quote unquote word processing. That's what we used to call it. I think in the 80s and 90s. We're well past that now, right? But okay, so just a word about AI. So what I'd like everybody to do is open their Gmail account. Uh, and real quick, if you open your Gmail account, can everybody see my screen? I just opened my Gmail account, got my flight information up. See the Jane joined, statement of facts, all right, and then click on this icon or click on these little Google Apps right here, and then go to find your Gemini icon, and then you're going to be brought to the Gemini screen, all right. And what's going to happen is we're going to create we're going to create a gem together. So go ahead and log in. Let me know when folks are logged in. And again, let me just do this again. So again, what you're doing, find the Gemini, you're going to click new gems, and then we're going to create the prompts. All right. So everybody's seen this slide. And then I'm going to go back. So here we are. We're in Gemini. Is there anybody that's not there? Hold on. Let me just see. And if you can't, if you're having a hard time finding it and following along, go ahead, Catherine. You gotta
I'm
unmute
not sure
yourself.
I'm going to be able to get in. I deliberately turned all this off and very
Okay.
intentionally some time ago, and I do not have time to turn it back on but in the middle of this, so I'm just going to watch.
Yeah. Just watch. If you can't log in, or if you're falling behind, just watch, and then you just watch the video later. Okay. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new gem. So let me just bring this up, and I'm gonna roll through this. All right. So here, hold on. Let me just move this out of the way. I want to create a new gem. So I can click on gems, and then right, I clicked on gems over here, and I create a new gem. All right. And here, if you look at your email, you'll see like it says, give your statement of facts a name, and you can just go right along with what I gave you. All right. And again, you're going to improve the gem as when you get ready to after we do this. All right. But so hold on, let me just get to where I need to be. Sorry. So the first thing is the name, and we're going to call it statement of facts. So you guys can see my screen, right? And we're calling it statement of facts, and I'm going to put the date. We're gonna call it statement of facts, and then I'm going to say 03/07/26. All right. Then our description. So if you go to that email that I sent you, and you find the description, it says create. I'm going to cut and paste where it says create a statement of facts for a legal
Sorry,
document.
I didn't get the email.
Just a sec. Hold on. Let me see who said that. Just a sec. Oh, Jane. Okay. Hold on, Jane. Let me just send it over to you. Uh, sorry, folks. Just a sec. Let me just make sure that you all get this. Okay. I may not have sent it to anyone. So it'll come in the email that says editing checklist. What's your email, Jane? You gotta, yeah, you gotta turn off your mute.
MONTAGJHGJH. There it is.
Okay. So I'm sending this to everyone again.
Ooh, maybe did it go into trash? Spam? Sorry.
So I just sent this to everyone again. Okay. So now you have it. Okay. So again, I'm working off of that. So go ahead and get your description in there, folks. Get your description set up. I lost my Gemini. Put in your description, and then so statement of facts, we named it. Put in your description. And then the next thing is the next two prompts here are instructions and knowledge, right? If you look at my particular, the one that I sent you, first of all, does everybody see that? Does anybody not see that? Let me just check in with everybody. Does anybody not see the part that says, does anybody not see my screen where it says Gemini and all that? Okay, everybody can see it. Okay. So again, where it's prompting me, it says instructions and then knowledge. Typically knowledge, you can websites and that type of thing. Now, let me just bring this back up. Let me bring in my prompt. So my instructions are here. They actually begin. So I got my objective. That's where I list my role, everything else. So right now, say see below, and I'm just going to cut and paste everything under knowledge right here, right? Because that gives me the entire instruction on how to do this. And sometimes I would make a separate document to list websites and put it in the knowledge tool. But right now I can just put everything in instructions right now. And I'm just going to cut and paste everything. So let me know when if you guys are following along, go ahead and cut and paste it in there. And then I'm going to save it. Right. So I'm going to say, so real quick, is everybody saved? Anybody not saved, or at least you guys see my screen, right?
James, I
Catherine,
see
you
your
can see my
screen.
screen? Okay.
Where was that cut?
Oh, so
instruction?
what I did was, let me go back. Yeah, I want to make sure everybody's following along because you're going to do this with me at the same time. And I expect everybody to be out there writing these for folks immediately today. So right under knowledge, Robert.
This Westby flashbacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
So right under knowledge, I'm going to cut and paste. I'm just going to scroll down and just copy. I did Control C. So you
Sorry,
got all
where's
that?
knowledge?
What's that?
Where are you? You off to the left of the screen? Where's knowledge? Where's that?
Oh, back.
It's in the email that we just got.
Yeah, in the email. If you see the email, I hope you got the email that I just sent.
May have. Yeah.
So right under this part where I mean you guys all have this prompt, so you're gonna be able to
Got it.
do that. You got it?
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
So yeah, I just copied everything from under there and then I pasted it in the Gemini prompt. So you guys see where I pasted it too, right? Go ahead and speak up. Anybody, Robert? You see where I pasted, or you see the screen right here?
Got it. I got your screen.
Okay, and then I'm gonna say start chat. Okay, so now it brings up a chat and it's gonna talk about my statement of facts, and you can call it statement of facts, ICE, or whatever you want to do. So now I want to create a statement of facts. Okay, so let's just do it with something that's public record that we already know about, right? And we want to create the statement of facts based on this whole framework that we set up. So I'm going to go on the internet and I'm just going to find something, right? So does everybody see my Google search?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to say, there we go. Police shooting, Columbus, Ohio, right? I haven't been to Columbus since last year. I was there on a case, but let's just see what's going on in Columbus. All right. We'll do all, or we'll say news or something like that. So we see that there's definitely something going on, right? And it looks like, you guys seeing this?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna click on the article, and I'm just gonna right now. I'll just copy the article. Everything that was in the article, right? This is all the information that I have, but there's probably a bunch of other things that could be there too. Now I'm gonna go back to my Gemini prompt. I'm gonna enter that, and honestly, just to be on the safe side, I'm just gonna go and get my URL from there. And I will put in my URL. And you know what? Just for the hell of it, I'm going to go back to that Google search. I'm going to go back to that Google search and let's see. Are there any other? So it looks like we're talking about the highway shooting. I don't know. Well, anyway, we'll leave it at that. All right. So I posted the URL. So now I'm putting it in here and I'm going to press submit.
Um,
So now you can see it just created a statement of facts for me.
Sweet. Very
And
nice.
it, right? It created an initial statement of facts. Now, of course, I got to edit it. So let me just copy it. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to bring it over to a new notepad just so I can. Does everybody see this? Everybody see the chalkboard? Anybody not see the chalkboard? Yeah,
We
see
can
it. All
see
right.
the Gemini, but if you switch screens, we can't see, no.
Okay, I switched screens. Okay. Oh, that's why Robert couldn't see it. Okay. Let me say. Let me switch screens. So you guys saw the output, right? So let me go over to the screen and let's look at what we copied and what we got here. So let me make the font a little bit bigger. Let's see. Trying to make the font bigger. I don't know how to do it in this one. Well, I'll just do this. Okay, so you guys can see it though, right?
Yes.
Okay. So and then I'm gonna go grab my editing checklist. And again, we're just doing this like this is a whiteboard. And right now, and then I'm just going to get to work on making sure that I just do this real quick. The incident took place. The time was a product. Look, it's doing everything for us. The location was, so we know it's Columbus, Interstate 70, Columbus, Ohio. Let's just say the zip code, I believe it's like 583, something like that. But anyway, we'll just put that in there. An armed robbery suspect, you know, allegedly fired on Columbus department officers during a highway pursuit. So I would say, you know,
Would you want to take armed robbery suspect? Sort of indicates that
go ahead, make the suggestion. Tell me what
he
to
might
write.
be armed.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. It's just like the other thing that it said was an armed robbery suspect. So wouldn't you want to take armed robbery out of there?
Yeah, I mean, not perfect,
Because
but
then
yeah,
that kind of taints the.
yeah. We'll say,
Right. Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, it thinks that the defendant is the Columbus Dispatch, which is the author of the article,
Mm.
and clearly not involved in the case.
so here's what I'm gonna write this like just follow along while I rewrite this, okay? Shot. Um, I don't want to do that. Let's just say shot twice. Shot James Cook two
Mhm.
times in the chest, or just say two times. All right, just to make the point. All right. And then they're saying Doe 1 and 2 officers. I want to take out whatever is making us do the Doe thing, but we'll say um, chase a vehicle complaint, right? Chase, right? The suspect stopped the car in the middle of the interstate. Two men said fled the scene on foot. To pursue the individuals. A third suspect, or we'll say, emerged from the vehicle, emerged from the vehicle with his hands up. Both officers. And then to answer Catherine's questions, it put in some of the law. I would be careful with that though, again, because we don't want to name the wrong things, right?
Mhm.
And then as a result, I'm making a joke, and that's only known to me. But let's just say he's survived by one adult son named, say,
Yeah, okay.
all right. So something like that. I mean, this is very rudimentary, but again, the purpose is to use this. Now, the problem is we used a statement of facts from a a news article that was about somebody who actually it wouldn't be a valid case because if he opened fire on the officers, then we're not getting anywhere with that case. But
Right.
you guys, I mean, the point being is that you can see where this is like a very powerful tool. So for instance, if we do this again, well, let's just do one more so you guys can see the gem. Can you guys see it right now?
Yes,
Okay. And then let's do, can you see the Google search?
yes.
I don't know. In yeah, let's say Louisville, Kentucky, it just came up. So here we got a story about a guy wielding a screwdriver. You guys see that? Can everybody see that?
Good ever.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys can
Yes.
see it? Okay. So what
Yes.
I'm doing is I'm gonna cut and paste this. Just a moment. Hold on. Just bear with me just a quick second. And I'm gonna cut and paste this whole thing, right? To a text file. You guys can't see the text file, right?
Correct.
Not yet.
Uh-oh. Okay, so again, I'm going to share, and so I have all of that information that I copied in my prompt. So can you guys see the Gemini screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And then I'm going to paste it all there. And let me just go get let me go get the URL. Let me go back to the Gemini screen. So I just inputted it. Okay. And so if you read through it, looks, we have this. And then let's go back to the whiteboard.
Wait.
So back on the whiteboard, right? Can you guys see the blank whiteboard?
Yes.
Yes.
Where'd it go?
So there it is. So, and you just look at it. Of course, you have to edit it, but the point is that it helps you write this much faster, and you can do a lot of them. All right, in a quicker time because we're gonna have to do this. And typically, you're gonna be writing this from notes, like So that's what you tell the watchers, like take notes. Like take notes on what you got, and then they'll send an email or a text. You send that text to your email, and you can put it in your gem, and at least like get started a little bit quicker than you normally would. All right, and that's going to help out the attorneys. That's going to help us with going to court. It'll be used in the legal documents, and that'll get things rolling really fast, especially if we got to do something kind of like last minute, or like we're looking at a 5 hour turnaround time. This is it. And we're looking at a lot of 5 hour turnaround times. So, any questions from there? I just wanted to show people how to do the gym. Might have taken longer than, yeah, hour and 15 minutes, but I think, any questions right off the bat? Go ahead.
In the scenario where we might be called to do something like this, James, I'm seeing in the signal chats, for example, a number of requests for help for somebody who got snatched, on Chicago Avenue or something like that. Is that the point where a layperson like us would jump in and say, "Hey, how can I help?" And then we get in touch with somebody, and this would be job one for us?
There you go. Job one, Robert. That's it. Create that statement of facts.
Okay.
And again,
Yeah,
that's what you,
facts.
yeah. And later on, I'm going to show you, you'll see the habeas corpus presentation, and there'll be a template. Take that statement of facts that you just created, post it to that template, and you're on. You know what I mean? So, and once you get good at it, you're going to be able to create them within like, half hour, like, or less, right? Like we literally write lawsuits, in under an hour. Of course, it's got to go through editing and everything else, but at least you got a draft to work with that you can get to the right attorney, or if you're going to do it, you could take it over to Whipple, whatever you got. Does that make sense, Robert? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's getting me there. That second step, once we get it, you said put it into a habeas corpus application, and then we need to be like in communication with a real lawyer, right? At that point.
Yeah, yeah. But here, remember, the purpose of doing all this is to have people file it pro se. So we're saying that on all the other presentations, and some of you guys remember that, but and I'm going to state it again because it's a good question that Robert asks. Is we're trying to be able to get people, just citizens, to do it, right? Like Catherine's group over in Richfield,
Yeah.
Katie's, they have people over there like doing a lot of these. Like, we want just regular citizens to be able to do this and flood the zone, flood the court with as many of these habeas applications, even if they're not complete, whatever it is, like get them on the calendar, just get it flooded. Because
Yes.
honestly, the judges are in favor of what we're doing. So they're going to, try to help. The point is just to get something in the court system that slows things down, right? Because like, yeah, I mean, I was doing it all. I was trying to do all this all as one person, and that was just me, like one part of the neighborhood, man. That's not even for the rest of town. So yeah, does that help, Robert?
That's exactly what I needed. Thank you.
Yeah, Catherine, you were gonna say something? No, or Katie?
Yeah, I was thinking about like at what point do you not have enough information? Supposing, someone posts on the chat, oh my gosh, somebody just got snatched in front of La Vaquita, and we don't know who was snatched, and we don't know, who snatched them. We don't know where they went. All we know is that a person was seen snatched in front of La Vaquita. That's all we know. And the time, of course,
Yeah.
and all that.
I mean, you're
Is
gonna have
that a
to do
point
dough and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead. Jane was gonna say something.
Yeah, I mean, the one, for instance, the one we didn't know, the on 66, we found in the vehicle that they just left, rolling down the street. There was some mail in there, and we were able to determine who they were, and then just what did we see? Not what we didn't see, not what we assumed, but what did we see? What did we determine? And it was going to that address and being allowed in, and then getting a translator, found out the person was his uncle. Here's his paper. I mean, things like that. That's going to be like the investigative part, but I think that we can definitely start with what we've got and just, get it going. You can always um, update it as you need to before it goes in, but at least get it started. Memory in the first few minutes is going to be key, because as soon as we walk away, we forget things.
Yeah. And you're talking about something that you did with Catherine, right?
No,
Okay, so your experience.
this was a different one in Richfield.
Okay. Well, to answer both of your questions, but actually, Catherine, did you finish everything that you're going to say? You finished your
Yeah,
thought?
no, I was just, and also I just said there, I have no idea if anyone's, I was using an example, and I was just trying to figure out, like, because sometimes, like Jane said, you don't know. And I was just like, when do you not know? When do you enough not know? And it
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah,
just,
you use this three-paragraph format and fill in the blanks. You guys see it
Hmm.
up on the whiteboard, right? Start
Yeah.
there. That's like your basic thing. Start there, the three paragraphs, and you can interchange this. It'll be a different
Hmm.
date in 2026, different time, different
Yeah.
street. At least you got that. And if you don't know, just say, here, we don't, it's not going to be San Bernardino because you're not in California, but it's going to be law enforcement officers, right? If you don't know who the
Hmm.
department is, but maybe you will know it's immigrations and customs enforcement. And then you start to
But
fill
see,
in as much as you know.
I have a
Huh?
question. This is
Yeah.
Katie.
Go ahead. Sorry,
I have a
Katie.
question.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
like, like, I'm not super active right now because I'm recovering from surgery, but like, and things are calming down, at least from where I see it. Like, how are you gonna know? Okay, I saw this, and how am I gonna know? Are is somebody gonna loop me in and say, "Hey, can you write these statements of facts?" Or am I just going on like, "Oh shit, I just saw this happen," and I write it out, and then what do I do with it? Like,
Yeah, let's talk about that. There's going to be a couple ways that this comes up. So real quick, hold on. Let me just stop recording. Just a sec.